Ho, ho, ho! I just got done talking with Santa, and he thinks it would be a great idea if you were to give yourself a blog for Christmas. Or this could be a talk that is why IT security people need blogs. And I think you should all have blogs that you're writing. Here's the reasons why. So I'm Jack Rhysider. I was a network security engineer for 10 years. I was configuring firewalls, troubleshooting them, IDSs, IPSs, syslogs, you name it. But then I started a blog, and then I became a podcaster. And at this point, I have 4 different blogs, and I think blogs are great. And I'll try to convince you to get your own blog. My first blog was written in 2010, and I had some reasons why I decided to blog. First, I wanted to remember the problems that how to solve problems I was solving in the past. Like I would configure something and I would have a configuration that I would apply, or I would type in a command that had some weird, dashes and weird switches at the end. I couldn't remember what those things were. How did I do that? Totally forgot. I tried looking at my notebooks, tried looking at emails, couldn't remember. I don't remember. So where was I putting that stuff? I wasn't putting it anywhere. And, that's not a good idea. People were asking me for help all the time. Hey, you're good at troubleshooting this. You're good at troubleshooting that. Come on over to my desk. Yeah, help me out with this and that sort of thing. And, I'd have to write full on emails. Like, here's how to troubleshoot this. And here's what the backup plan is and the strategies and all these things. And send them out. And I was doing that over and over and over and over. I was getting pretty repetitive. I realized my impact was limited on what I was doing on the world, right? So the only people who, I thought I was a good network security engineer. But the only people who could even vouch for me or attest for me were my coworkers and my customers. These are the only people who knew I existed as a network security engineer. Like, I was valuable to them, but nobody else on the planet knew who I was or, if I was good or not. And so that was okay. But if I were to ever leave that job, now I got to start at square one, where I have to build my reputation all the way from scratch once again. And that is a big task, right? So how can I impact more people with the knowledge I have? And another thing was that I would sometimes face problems that nobody knew the answer to, and they were winging it, and they were given wrong solutions and not very helpful at all. Or, I was, Googling an error code, and there would be no answers for that on Google. Like, basically, that error code has never been seen on the internet ever before. And I'm like, how is this possible? And so when you're seeing lots of wrong information or seeing no information at all on a problem, you got to go off the map and solve it on your own and figure it out. And when you figure it out, maybe you can help the internet, right? Like, look, somebody else has got to have this error code. Why don't I blog about it? Just show people how to do it. And lastly, this is a weird one, but it's so true. In 2010, I was dating at the time, and I didn't have a website or a blog or anything. And this woman I was dating was not an IT tech person at all. Like, she didn't even care for it at all, or couldn't figure out much of it. Yet she had a website that she put together somehow. I have no idea how. And it was popular. It was getting talked about on social media and stuff. And I'm just like, how is it that you have a bigger web presence than me, and I've spent the last 20 years of my life in front of this computer learning how to build websites and coding and breaking things and fixing things, and yet you have somehow gotten more stuff out on the internet than I have? This is ridiculous. I definitely need to represent myself properly online by having a website at least, and a blog is a great first website to make because it's easy to make, it's got a low barrier of entry, and you can be very valuable. But what do you write on it? Well, obviously those obscure commands that I would rarely use, but how to look up, I have to look it up every time I want to use it, like the find command on Linux. For some reason, I can never remember what it looks like. Or how to take a screenshot on Mac OS. What are these magic buttons, right? So I'd look this up every time. Might as well put it on my blog so it's easy for me to find. I don't have to click around on a few websites to figure out exactly what it is I'm looking for. I know I've done this command before. It's on my blog. Go there real quick. Done. I've got the answer. How to troubleshoot problems I face regularly. But if I'm hitting that same problem over and over and I'm not documenting how I'm solving it, I'm starting at square one every time. And when somebody else needs help troubleshooting that, then where do we go? Like, so if I could just troubleshoot or document how I troubleshot this, here's how I fixed it, then I can use that again over and over as like a guide on how to fix it in the future. Especially when you get woken up at like 2 a.m. because you're on call and they're like, we've got this problem. And you're like, I have no idea who I even am or what my name is at 2 a.m., much less how to troubleshoot this really obscure problem. So having like nice documentation on how you troubleshot it in the past is such a lifesaver. Obviously, problems that Google couldn't solve were great things that I could blog about. See, the thing is a lot of people don't know what to blog about. They think, oh, I could blog about the news. I could blog about my observations in the InfoSec space, or, come up with new innovative ideas for the future. No, forget about all that. No, you're not trying to impress anyone. You're just there to document the problems you've solved. And that would be great. The world needs more of that. Absolutely more of that. If I ever took a class, which I took lots of classes on, CEH and Cisco networking and Juniper networking, I was notating all that right in my blog. Like that was my note keeper, was my blog. Like I had my blog open. I was just writing how to do this and that in the class straight onto my blog, and it was getting blogged. Because that's where, how are you going to keep your notes from the class? You might as well make them public. Like, you kept them there. Like it's a backup strategy too for your information, right? Anytime I had I saw a video on YouTube that I liked, that was, IT security, I would comment on it and put it on the blog. And sometimes I would get really, into it and start building like JavaScript tools and stuff to help me do things like subnet calculators and hash analyzers and stuff. And yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I'm just building cool things. I'm learning coding, like I'm practicing IT stuff. Any kind of lessons learned I would blog about, like I learned don't ever use debug all on a Cisco router because it could break the router, right? So junior engineers were asking me, what was some of the things you did wrong, coming up? Well, I got a whole blog on all the things I did wrong. So like, where do we want to start, right? So that was a good lesson for other people as well. And then any sort of video lessons that I created, I would blog about too, because I'd make a video like, here's how to upgrade this firewall or something like that. And I would post that. And then that was a great place to put it on the blog. So with that, a blog was born, and I made the website tunnelsup.com in 2010. And yep, just had a bunch of articles and some tools and cheat sheets and things. And what happened when I did this? Well, the internet corrected me. That's what's going to happen, right? And that's great if it happens, because you're trying to be a good engineer or a security person or IT person. And now the internet is saying, well, you did that wrong. Here's how you could do it better, or something like that. That's only going to make you better. That's going to improve you tremendously when somebody comes along and says, did you ever consider using this command instead? This would be a lot easier if you did it this way or whatever. And now you can say, oh yeah, here's why that's a good idea, or here's why that's not a good idea. And you can have like really good conversations about that. I actually literally got job offers, not like full on come work for a company, but like, I'm hitting this problem. I can't figure it out. Can I hire you for the weekend, for like 4 hours, like that kind of thing. Just like be a consultant for me for a couple hours and let's get on a video sharing and, show me what commands I'm not getting right. So, that happened. Like, people did not see my resume. They don't know who I am. And yet they're giving me the option to put hands on their, in their routers and firewalls. Like, whoa, how did that happen? Strangers would write to me and just thank me. And that's such a great feeling when you put something out there and people are like, oh, I've looked all over the internet. I couldn't find the answer. You had it right there at the top of your page. Thank you so much. And they sometimes go even further and send me money, like $5 or $10 each, at a time. And that was amazing when somebody appreciated me so much. They wanted to buy me coffee or something. Like, that was awesome. And so that grew, like, who appreciated me outside my coworkers and customers, right? So now my Twitter was growing because I'm posting it on Twitter. Now I'm getting accepted to speak at conferences because my name is becoming more known out there. Oh yeah, that's that blog we know about. I got accepted for other things because it's like, hey, I'm a blogger. I can come, test your product and blog about it or something. You can do all kinds of different things with it. So yeah. I became known outside of that little circle of people who knew that I was good, right? So now more people think I'm good, which is great because now if I ever have to move jobs or do something else, I'm not so scared about it, right? I mean, I'm already getting job offers for people to come, have me come help them on the weekends, so I can, create relationships there and stuff. And if I need a job, I could just put it on the blog and say, oh, I'm looking for a job here and there. So like it really getting outside that immediate circle of who knows that you're good and letting the world know you're good, it can really open a lot of doors. And another thing is I use the blog all the time because I was referencing it to troubleshoot certain things and to look up commands. So yeah, I was like the biggest user for sure. And that's kind of goes back to, what do you blog about? Do you write like lengthy articles and poetry and stuff? No, man, write stuff that you want to read because I'm putting stuff up there that I'm like going back to and like, oh yeah, what was that error code that, what does that mean, that error code? I know I blogged about that. So let me go there and see. And you can like kind of eject stuff out of your head and say, I don't have to memorize what that error code is. I have the website right here that I can go to anytime. So another thing is coworkers stopped asking me as many questions, right? Hey, Jack, can you come to help me troubleshoot this? I've seen you troubleshoot this before. You know all about this. Forget it. Here's a link, or I'll type up how to troubleshoot it. And instead of sending them the email on how to troubleshoot it, I would just blog it and then say, here's a link to my blog. Read about it there. If you have problems, I'll be happy to come over and help. Right. And so now they were learning, I'll just check the blog first, see if he's hit this problem before. And if not, I'll ask him about it. Right. So they were actually asking me less because they were looking at my blog first. It was incredible. So hopefully this has convinced you. You're ready to start a blog. Let's get a new one. New year starting 2021. Started out with a blog. Here's some of the blog options for 2021. WordPress is still pretty popular. It's really user friendly. However, it runs PHP, which can be pros and cons. The pros are like you have access to this amazing backend that you can configure to do all kinds of cool things, and it's cool. Right? You can build extra tools and stuff. However, PHP is riddled with vulnerabilities, and so you need to keep it updated. And then the same thing with WordPress. You need to keep it updated because it has vulnerabilities. And all the plugins that WordPress have vulnerabilities. So you need to update the plugins too. So there's just a lot of updates that have to go on WordPress. You could self-host it, or you can have them host it for you. But yeah, those are kind of the pros and cons. I prefer Jekyll and Ghost right now. These are static HTML website generators. What that means is that I kind of have the CMS, the content management system, on my computer, and it has the Ruby and it has the Python to render, to take this blog and to turn it into static HTML. So it kind of compiles it and renders it to just be, at the end of the day, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that's it. It has no backend. And so when I upload it, I can send it to just anything that can host a file. So it can be an AWS S3 server. It can be a GitHub page. And if you don't know, GitHub is a place to store files, but GitHub Pages is a place to display that in like a website view. But GitHub doesn't have a back end. You can't configure PHP or something to control your website from GitHub Pages. And same with AWS. It just hosts static pages. And so that's a perfect combination for Jekyll or Ghost to then go up to one of those places. Medium.com is a place to blog. This is probably the easiest to get started. You just create an account and go. There's no picking a theme or configuring anything. You're just like, this is what you get. And you can't really like advertise on it or put Google ads or anything in there if that's what you want to do too, because they've got it pretty locked down. So yeah, it's non really customizable, but it's simple to get started. And Wix and Squarespace are just kind of a step above that, where you can totally customize it. You can change the way the theme looks or the font, or you move and drag and drop graphics around. It's real simple, and you can use it as a blog too. So hopefully that's inspired you to like go get a blog started. Give yourself a blog for Christmas. I think it would be a great thing for you to do, and I would love to see it. So if you do make a blog from this video, please show it to me. I can't wait to see what you've made. Honestly, the thing is that I blogged for 7 years, and then I started to make a podcast. And I don't think I would have had the confidence or the ability to do it if I wasn't blogging first, because I'm putting stuff out there in the world and I'm nervous what the world is going to think of it, right? As a blogger. And after a while, you just get used to it. Like, oh yeah, people are throwing rocks. That's fine. I'm used to it. This is valid. This is not valid. And you're explaining things complex topics, and you're just going through the motions over and over and over, and you get good at presenting, at teaching. And it wasn't, if I didn't have all that, 7 years of blogging, I don't think my podcast would be as popular it is, because that was a skill that I kind of needed to skill up on before I could do it. So I'm not saying go create a podcast afterwards, but I'm just saying the doors have opened in so many new ways. And now I'm a full-time podcaster, podcasting about cybersecurity. And that's a dream come true, that I can just do that thing on my own. And it's amazing. So, that's possible. So yeah, I hope this has been inspirational to you to go make a blog, and I can't wait to see it. Have a good KringleCon and happy holidays.
Ho, 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 ho.